Hello and welcome on the Barricades. This is a podcast produced by Eastern European journalists and academics. My name is Maria Cernat. I am an academic based in Bucharest, Romania. Unfortunately, the co-host of the show, Boyan Stanislavski, was not able to make it today, but we have a special guest, and she is Maria Ananyeva. She specializes in propaganda. She currently resides in Russia, and she has very interesting points of view with regards to what's happening right now, especially in Russian media. She specializes, as I told you, in propaganda. She also teaches English. So, Maria, what are the main Russian channels and how is the media landscape organized? I know that here in Romania, we have two public stations. That means that they are financed by the government, meaning that we have the public television and the public radio. But I was very curious, what is the media landscape in Russia? What is the state of Russia today? Is this a commercial media or is it a private public partnership? What is the situation with the media in general in Russia?
Okay. Hello, Maria. Thank you very much for introducing me to the public. And so now I would like to move on to the media landscape in Russia. First of all, the idea that I would like to emphasize is that is related to the Russia Today channel. A lot of people believe that if Russia Today was created by Russia, then it means that it's supposed to be one of the basic sources of information in Russia. In fact, that's far from being true, because Russia Today was created in order to polish the country's image abroad, first of all. So the target audience of this channel is foreigners and compatriots who currently live in different countries. I mean, those countries that go beyond Russia's territories. But in terms of the media landscape in Russia, I think that there are channels that, first of all, are considered to be state-owned. Yeah, and it's not a misconception to say that, first of all, they are public, and that means that they are sponsored by the state. If we take a look at different different surveys and research in general, we will see that in 2022, the most popular channels were the following: Channel 1, Russia 1, and NTV. So, in fact, these are the channels that mostly broadcast different types of news reports, news programs, and political talk shows. Yeah, actually, especially.
And are they commercial? Because in Romania, besides those two financed by the state, the media channels, so the public television and the public radio, we have, of course, commercial media. So I assume this is the case. What is the situation of these media channels? Are they publicly owned? Are they private? Is this the partnership?
I think that, first of all, they are publicly owned, and just as I have said, mostly they are sponsored by the state, which means that the state is the key player that can set the agenda and formulate the particular agendas that are supposed to be promoted. Yes, and especially for our talk yesterday, as for me, I haven't watched TV for a long period of time. Yes, just I'm not a fan of TV in comparison with some Russians, but especially for our show, I took a look at the TV program for today, for example, when I have mentioned not two, but three TV channels: Channel 1, Russia 1, and NTV. And if we take a look at their at the contents themselves, we will see that they are predominated by different news reports and political talk shows. For example, news is supposed to be broadcast at 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And then there is a special program called Time. It's also a news program. It is aired at 9 o'clock in the evening. Then also, like since the Russian Federation launched its special military operation in Ukraine, then some particular programs have been launched as well. For example, the so-called info channel, and according to the schedule, it is on air 4 times a day. So you can imagine those people who are, we cannot say that they're glued to their TV sets, but those people who are active TV viewers may be shaped by these particular programs. The same story is true for Russia 1. So as for the news programs, you can watch them at 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 2:30, 4, 8, and 9 o'clock. Then there is a special political program called 60 Minutes. You can watch it twice a day. And then there is a special talk show with Mr. Solovyov, and I think that you know. He's considered to be, no, you don't know him. Yeah, in fact, he's, if we can use this label, he's considered to be one of the mouthpieces of the Russian state, or like in the bad sense of the word, he's a propagandist. So he spreads this pro-war propaganda, and he has his own TV show at 11:25, like in the evening. Yeah, also there are some other programs on NTV, and the point is that like we have been living under such circumstances, I think, since last February, in fact. Yes,
have those channels changed their programs in the sense that there is more emphasis on news and political commentary and military commentary since the operation started, or is it just a slight change in content, focusing more on the military and political events?
That's a good question. And I would say that for all these years, I think since 2014, when Russia kind of annexed Crimea, then these changes have become quite visible. I mean that, but like the striking evidence or the striking situation is visible right now. I mean, and it has become visible since February the 24th. 2022. Just a lot of political TV shows have emerged. And just usually the idea that they convey is pretty the same. Yes, and so unfortunately that's true. But according to some research conducted by different pollsters, not only state-owned but also independent, the popularity of all these shows dipped a bit in December 2022. So according to one of the companies called Mediascope, the Russians had just got tired of all this information flows, and the program was adjusted a bit to include more entertainment and fun. So kind of that.
I understand, but tell me, what are the other channels? Do you have commercial media, and what are the social media, the most important social media that Russians use? I think there is one called VKontakte, if I'm not mistaken, and probably Telegram. What are the most important ones? So the first question, do you have also important commercial media in terms of audience and viewership? And what are the most important social media channels?
So as for this overview of the media in Russia, of course, there are some commercial channels, but mostly they focus on some entertainment. Yes, when it comes to the key channels that I have just mentioned, Channel 1 and TV, Russia 1, and then also TVC, then of course they are state-owned. As for other channels, I would say that there can be a mixture of different partners, so it can be both public and private. Yeah, and in terms of the social media that you have just mentioned, yeah, the landscape has changed. I would say that not even slightly, but dramatically since February 2022, just because some social media platforms have been blocked in Russia, and now they are only accessible with a VPN. I mean, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Yes, these are the most evident examples. As for VK, you have mentioned this, or you have brought it up, it's like Kontakte, yeah, VK, and I think something like group mates or classmates in Russian, this media is called Odnoklasniki. They have gained in popularity just because their purpose was to host all those people who couldn't use a VPN and to host all those users who had to leave Instagram or Facebook. Yeah, and again, according to a lot of studies, they have faced or they have witnessed, that would be a better word, they have witnessed an increase in the number of users. Yes, so that was the trend. As for the media landscape in general, I think that would be quite reasonable to talk about the number of people who watch TV or who use social media. Yeah, like here I would say that the numbers are quite, I wouldn't say that they are controversial, but still we should take them with a pinch of salt. I mean, yeah, like you can imagine that polling people in wartime is a very, I wouldn't say that it's a risky affair, but it may be a very challenging task because people are quite afraid to
speak their mind. Mm-hmm.
To speak their minds and to air their opinions openly, and that's why just we should be careful while analyzing the results and the opinion polls just cited by different sources. Yeah, and just because certain issues can be made salient, others may be buried, and just the sad fact is that word itself changes what people say to pollsters. But if we take a look at again at a couple of sources, we will see the following picture: that in 2022, more people started watching political talk shows. Usually, they spent on average a Russian citizen spends 23 or 29 minutes watching such shows. And it's not about news programs, it's about political talk shows. Yeah. Then as for 53,000 of people, then they usually turn to TV and other like platforms, in our case, social media platforms, while just 29% of people use only the internet. But I have just cited the results produced by one of the state-owned opinion polling stations. Yes. So as for these 53 people, then
53% of the people.
Sorry, 53%. As for this 53%, then of course they prefer kind of a hybrid regime. So sometimes they watch TV, and in other cases they turn to social media platforms like VK or like group mates or Odnoklasniki in Russian, and just Telegram and so on. Mm-hmm. Yes, and those people, of course, who are aged over 60 and older, they are big fans of TV, first of all. I think that's quite logical, and that may be traced or detected. This trend may be detected in different countries, not only in Russia itself. Yeah, so as you can see, and another important point is that this, according again to this survey reports, just the media landscape and just the way Russians have consumed news, the way hasn't changed a lot since 2021. So they state that just there are those who use both TV and social media, and then the number has not significantly changed since 2021. But as for the popularity of some TV shows, then yes, of course, just some of them have become popular, some of them have lost their appeal.
And tell me, out of the whole information you were able to analyze and you were exposed to, how much is criticism of the regime, like 5%, 10%? How many of those shows, how many of the whole information put forward by Russian channels, be it publicly owned or private owned? I mean, are there any people providing at least some sort of criticism about what's going on right now in Russia, or are they just all saying that everything goes according to the plan, that everything is perfect, that the best way forward is to follow what the Kremlin regime is saying, and so on and so forth?
Again, that's a very good question, just because it's frankly speaking, it's pretty difficult to answer it in a simple way. So there is no one clear-cut answer to this question. Of course, I can't say that just 100% of talk shows are in favor of what is going on right now. Of course, we can hear some voices of those people who promote particularly different viewpoints, but actually it is done usually in a pretty artificial way. What I mean by this is that usually such talk shows adopt the strategy that I personally call a fake alternative. In other words, like you can imagine that political talk show usually like invites maybe 6 or 7 people, something like that. The majority of them, of course, will air pro-Russian and pro-state opinions. But some of them, like maybe 1 or 2 people, that depends on the situation, will try to oppose the majority. And like the idea that lies behind all these talk shows is not just to reach a particular consensus or to arrive at some, I would say, constructive conclusions, but to demonstrate that the minority is not right and that the majority prevails over the minority. Yeah, that's the way most talk shows, political talk shows in Russia is arranged. So that's the way they are arranged.
Orchestrated to create the illusion of dissent, and then those dissenting voices are a strawman. Basically, they are putting forward arguments that are not credible, only in order for the wise majority to come and say that they are wrong, right?
Yeah, so here I would agree with you. So the purpose is to help, let's say, everyone to rally around the flag. Yeah. As for think tanks, I mean, those research centers that are supposed to produce some unbiased analysis, then of course there are some opinions that may be quite different from what the mainstream media or analysts are airing, but still they are expressed in a very tentative way. And even before the Russian invasion of Ukraine, some articles had emerged on the websites and in the media, just advising Russia not to do this. But as regarded, just all the things were ignored. But the most interesting thing is that sometimes these experts, some of the experts who are considered or who portray themselves as real patriots, can express certain criticism towards the state. It's possible, and that can be done in a very emotional way. But again, then just...
What do you mean in an emotional way? They can be straight.
Yeah. So they may use some like emotive language. Some, I won't say like bad comments or something like this, but these words and their behavior can be signals of the fact that they are not satisfied with what is going on. So how come? Why didn't we do that? So maybe we were wrong. So certain skepticism and maybe some dissatisfaction is being aired. But again, it is happening in a very limited way. So to a small extent, unfortunately. So just the point is to come to one idea and to rally around the flag. Yeah.
Great. So this is for the first time. Then I'm going to go in depth with the question in the second part of the show, seeing how many women are present, what is the gender balance, so to speak, in these political talk shows, what is the racial balance in a sense, are there minorities invited, how is the media landscape in terms of diversity of ideas, of people being present there, and also diversity in terms of ownership. I will present the situation in Romania, just a short presentation, and then we'll try to compare it with what is happening in Russia. Thank you so much, Maria. It was very, very informative. And I think a lot of the viewers should analyze it, should take this information into account. Unfortunately, there is a language barrier. The alphabet is not helping, the language is not helping a lot. And for most of us, it's very difficult to understand what's going on in Russia, especially since, as I told you before, starting recording, we had in Romania, but in the western part of the world, dozens, if not hundreds of conferences, academic conferences, meetings, talk shows, discussing Russia without Russians. And I am so happy that you took this opportunity to come and to discuss Russia and to explain what's going on there. Because in these times where things are so tense, I think very rational presented information is crucial. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And to the viewers, if you like what you saw, please go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/thebarricade. We have a small community of donors to whom we are very thankful, and we rely on your help. Thank you so much for those who decided to donate, and to the ones that watched and liked it. It is a way of showing real support for what we're doing.